Hello, everybody. Welcome in on a June the 12th, the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. I'm Dennis Fitton. We're ready to kick this show off, talking about the latest in Michigan sports. Thanks for joining us. We're here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday doing just that, even throughout the summer, talking about the Maize and Blue. And, even if this was a once a week podcast, I think today would be a good day to come on because there's so many different things to talk about. You had recruiting, a big recruiting weekend going on last weekend, and then this past weekend, and this upcoming weekend that continues. We will go over all the ins and outs, give you my impressions, opinions, and what the latest is with Michigan on the recruiting path. Donovan Edwards had some things to say about his health and playing through a knee injury last year. I'll give you his quotes and what he had to say. I'll give you some opinions on the one-armed bandit. Well, we'll start out with Michigan landing a commitment over the weekend. And that commitment, as much as you might want to say, it's Wafle, because that's how it looks with just one less F. It is pronounced Wafle. Like me, after I have an extra couple slices of pizza and I'm asked, do I want another one? I say, no, I'm way full. And Owen Wafle is commitment number 18 for Michigan for the 24 class. And the Wolverines continue to stay in the top 5, in the top 3. They're ranked number 3 in the team rankings for Rivals at number 24 and commitment number 18. And Wafle previously was a Notre Dame commit, and then he ends up decommitting from Notre Dame, and now he joins up with the Maize and Blue, and he's a good one. You never have enough athletic defensive linemen, and that's what it looks like. Wafle fits the bill. 6'3", 290 in high school as a defensive tackle out of Princeton, New Jersey. Rivals has him as a 4-star. What's not to like? I'll tell you, nothing. It's a good commitment for Michigan. They're happy to have him, and obviously he's happy to be aboard. So that is looking good. One thing that we do here on this show, if you have a question, you have a thought about what's going on with Michigan, you can use the feedback and ask a question, make a point, that kind of thing. And in real time, we'll answer it like that. That's what we'll do. Even Vince, who is on vacation, taking us in live in Cancun. Vince, I kind of wish I could, fire up your phone and get a live look at Cancun. I've never been to Cancun, but I've heard many stories about Cancun. Scott says, let's talk some basketball today, too. Well, I like talking about football, but I also like talking about basketball, Scott. So, if you got a question, you got some kind of point you want to make when it comes down to Michigan. I did not plan anything out there, but, it's never too far out of mind to talk about Juwan Howard and company. 82 days until kickoff, the Vince S countdown to kickoff down there at Cancun. How about life, Vince? That's got to be pretty nice, being able to bask in the sunshine of Cancun. And, it sounds great. Scott is already wondering when the first college football game is this season. Well, you don't have to wonder too much, Scott. The Labor Day weekend was September the 2nd this week. And then, that's week 1, and then they always back it up. Spartans traditionally, I believe they do play again this year. They'll play on a Friday, and then they kick things off on a Thursday. Probably about a half dozen games. Sometimes when you haven't had football in so long, you're surprised. You're not surprised. It's surprising that as a game that if it would be during the regular season, you'd never even think about it. But they place it on that Thursday. And, I've already looked, but, I don't remember that first Thursday schedule. And now they've got the week 0 going, which is, even before that. Of course, that goes off in August. And one that I think fans should probably get used to, because I think they're going to back with the, with the 12 teamer and everything else now with the playoffs coming up. I think everybody is going to be moving back to week 0. So, with Vince saying 82 days, I think you could probably say 75 days until week 0 if I'm doing that right. That's what I'm talking about, Scott. Owen Wafle and John Bacon would make a hell of a breakfast team. Well, if you ever get a chance to talk to John U. Bacon, you see him walking down Main Street, which, if you're down in Ann Arbor, there's a chance that you'll run into John U. Bacon and his family. He's frequently down there. You see him sometimes. John Bacon, he grew up, the Bacons grew up next to the Hams, and across the street, believe it or not, was it the eggs, or it could have been the omelets, Dennis omelet, Dennis egg. It was some sort of other food. And they all had a few of the dogs. I forget what they're the hot dogs. So you had the hot dogs with the omelets across the street, and then you had the Bacons, and then next to the Bacons were the ham. That is a true story that John Bacon, that's according to John Bacon. I'm going to take his word for it. Why would he say, if he didn't grow up next to the Hams in Ann Arbor, why would he say it? It's a good story. Here's formerly Andres, now GAM Golf. Scott is talking about poor Vince on a nude beach in Cancun, and he's on board with us. That's a true Michigan fan. Oh, see, I didn't know that Cancun was a nude beach. That changes my opinion. I'm gonna say I went to a nude beach, and I think in France, maybe they're all nude beaches. And when I was 13 years old when I first took a trip over to France. And I believe, I was like, my parents like, wait a second, the women might not be wearing, tops on the beaches. And so for that, I was like, oh, right. And, there was nothing. It didn't happen, which was going on. There is the senior editor of the Maize and Blue Review, Trevor McHugh. You probably watched his podcast last night and all the moving and shaking that was going on with the Maize and Blue, as along with Josh Henschke. Those guys teamed up for the great podcast that you were able to take in, the now Hail to the Podcast. That's what it's called. It's got a nice one. For your enjoyment and information. That's what you're looking to. Douchins. That's it. Hot dogs. That's what they're called. Vince, no nude beach. Andre saying new studio. No, it's the same studio, but you will see about halfway, if you are watching the podcast, I have I've taken down half of my backdrop. My wife had told me since the start. She said it was gaudy, it was a mess, it was all over the place, and I said, I kind of like it. So I was, she only said it once, and then I asked her again, what do you really think of it? And she told me she didn't like it. And then somebody sent me a direct message on Twitter and said that they had liked the podcast. They said they were distracted by so many things, and they said it looked amateurish. I think that's the word they use. And then I thought, well, it's time for a change. But there will be something here. Let me get out. I think I'm going to go and contact my 5 favorite places in Ann Arbor and say, hey, this space can be yours. Let's make a deal. France just has a different view of the body image. That's right, Richard. Europe as a whole. I can also remember, going over to, in that same trip as a youngster, over to Germany. And again, I think it was my parents, telling me or warning me that, it's a little bit different. If you're going to see Germans out by the pool or out by the beach, I don't know if they weren't talking about them being nude or anything, but they were talking about having hairy armpits. And I do remember, you're going out there again, 13 years old, like, wow, man, this is a pretty sweet pool. Look at that girl. Whoa, hands down. But hey, it's not that. That's the thing. That's the culture. That's what was going on over there. You know what I mean, Richard? That's what was happening. Trevor and Mr. Darbo with some kind of synergy going on, which I don't mind. Richard's talking about get that green screen, and I can be anywhere I want. I've thought about it, as much as I was talking about the Rose Bowl and everything. Maybe that's what will happen. Maybe it'll be the Rose Bowl back there, just not out Michigan Stadium. We'll see how that works. So Michigan gets Wafle in the fold, and so that's 18 commitments. It's pretty bad. The way that it's going, I don't want to say it's perfect, but it's been nice. You look over on the offensive side, 10 commitments. Now the defensive side with Wafle, 8 commitments, 18. A balanced approach, heavy on the offensive line. Obviously, the quarterback, the running back, which we're going to get to. If you are following along with Rivals, which you are, the rankings, Rivals put out a new ranking today, and I just went through some of the names. Justin Scott. Those of you that watch this podcast or listen to this podcast, if the question was, who's the one player you really want to see Michigan get that's left on the board? I would have like 2 or 3 answers, but if I could only have one answer, the answer would be Justin Scott out of Chicago, Illinois, the 5-star defensive tackle. Now, if I could name 2, and it's my game, I can. I would then, after Scott, I would go to Childs, who is also on this list that we will look at. But Scott would be my number 1 pick, the 5-star, who was in this past weekend. And we'll look at how Scott, in a matter of just moments, we'll have a look at how Scott looked in the maize and blue and what artificial intelligence had to say about Scott's visit. There's Jaden Davis. He's at number 10. And see that they dropped him down 3 spots. So maybe this isn't the updated, because I think Davis was at number 3 before. However, it's still nice to be able to go through here and scroll some of the names that you have seen, guys that have been coming. There's Ryan Wingo out of St. Louis. He was just recently in Ann Arbor. Here's a guy that I just saw Josh Henschke posting about today, and he was in Ann Arbor over this weekend, and he's ranked number 25. There he is. JJR, Jordan Johnson Rubel. He's down there at IMG right now, like so many of the great high school football players. Liked his visit. He's at number 25, and Michigan is in with a chance for him. Yeah, he likes Ohio State. Yeah, okay, Texas is in there. And when you get a guy that's a top 25 player, there's going to be a lot of big-time schools, and Ohio State and Texas, they're 2 of them, but Michigan is in there as well. Speaking of Ohio State, when I saw a kid that was in this weekend, I kept thinking he's destined to go to Ohio State. But is he? I ask you the question. Bryce West, will he head north out of Cleveland, Glenville? We know who his high school coach is. But West, man, I got to believe that West put on that when he was up north. He looked at that uniform and said, forget down south. Let's stay north. I look good in the maize and blue, and who would tell him any different? He looked great putting on the maize and blue. We're going down the list. Believe me, I'm not going to go through all 250, but there's some other names here to just take a look at. How about Blake Frazier? Down goes Frazier. Down the rankings, or I guess it's just to be up goes Frazier, because he appears at number 52 on the list. The aforementioned, no, I didn't mention Jordan Marshall. Jordan Marshall vaulted up 94 spots. The running back out of Cincinnati, Moeller. He's sitting there at number 55. What a leap. What a move for Jordan Marshall. Great feature on the Maize and Blue Review with the aforementioned Josh Henschke, who did a feature on JM, you'll want to join up just to check out that feature. But then there's like 100 other things. But if you were just going to say you're a big fan of Jordan Marshall, well, that would be just a reason. There's the aforementioned number 2 on my big board wish list of future Wolverines at a good counsel. He's not the only good counsel player that's going to be mentioned in this top 100, but the linebacker out of Olney, Maryland, Aaron Childs. After I go to the big fella at number 8, I would go with Childs, who would be number 2 on my list. He's number 57 overall. Just a couple other ones, just that we talk about a lot. How about Taylor Tatum, running back out of Texas? He checks in at number 62. At 67 is Brady Priestcorn out of Rochester Hills Adams, the tight end, the sort of a new commitment for Michigan. And then just one more I wanted to go down to. I mentioned there was one other player that was out of good counsel that ended up being on this list. And there he is, Darian Mayo out of Olney, Maryland, good counsel, a teammate of Childs. Now, if I had to guess, Childs and Mayo, not that they're a package deal, but I think they're both coming to Michigan. And if you just, you keep going through here, Taylor Tatum, most people think that Taylor Tatum is going to Michigan. Priestcorn already is at Michigan. The thing is that there's a lot of these guys. There's Childs, he's the one. But there's, Marshall, and you got Tatum. A lot of these guys are going to end up in the maize and blue. And speaking of that, at times, I'm not somebody who covers Michigan that automatically, when something comes across the desk here, I'm like, oh, doesn't matter what happens. It's all Michigan. I'm going to have a Michigan approach. I'm going to be a complete homer about this. Just hit the button automatically. I'm going to be side with Michigan. I don't do that. I say that because over the last month or so, I'll see something, silly like a hiring practice that's not double checked, and I'll pause and I'll say, what's Michigan doing? I mean, it's Michigan. How could Michigan screw this up? I mean, they're supposed to, all these smart people, all these resources. Michigan should never do that. It's Michigan. I say that a lot. I don't know a lot, but I say it once in a while when Michigan, they do something stupid like they did last month. But this weekend, Michigan brought in their recruits. And, you're like me, you're on social media. You see, hey, look at, there's a picture of, some recruits coming in. Whatever Michigan decided to do in this recruiting, with recruits right now, there's a noticeable change. And Michigan has had, they got a lot of nice. This is a great campus, but with being a Jordan school, they had the wall with all the shoes, and they got everything all, it's great, to take the guys around and show them all this. But I detected Michigan even changing it up even more, like with the video and the pictures and where these guys were taking photos of. Whoever was in charge of that, it seems like there's a different person, or if there's not a different person, there's somebody else that came in and said, let's take pictures everywhere. And you look at that and you say, well, this is Michigan. Like they say that, like there's a difference. That was a Michigan difference from what I saw with the pictures. They've got it. Everybody has their own ideas and everything, but Michigan's idea on taking the players, not just, down on the field at Michigan Stadium, taking them up in the concourse, getting them out by this plaza, taking them over here, sitting them in the stands. I'd never seen any of that stuff before. And whoever's idea it was brilliant. Great job by Michigan to do that. Let's go to some of those pictures that I'm talking about. There's Frazier again. There's big Justin Scott. Now, you mentioned that plaza. You see, I don't know how often, it's right by the Chrysler Center. And, you're probably a Michigan fan that's gone to a game. You've probably stopped and looked this thing over. But, there's a lot going on in this plaza, and it is great. There's Scott, great Scott, wearing 77. And, if you just took a picture and said, what do you think of this guy? I'd say he looks like a 5-star. He looks like one of the best players in the country. And I would be right. There's the photo of Justin Scott, and I guess you can't see it. Maybe you can. He's got his pointer finger under his nose. And I can remember last year when it was Jalen Harrell in one of the games. He made a sack, and it looked like he was like wiping his mouth or wiping his lip or whatever. But, so I don't know. I asked AI why the finger under the nose in pics with teenagers. That's what I asked AI. And here was my artificial intelligence response. Modern teenagers run their index finger not under their nose, over their upper lip. Modern teenagers run their index finger not under their nose, but over their upper lip. This movement is popular on TikTok social media and can mean excitement. All right. I think AI, you can't take everything to the bank with AI, but I think they know what they're talking about. Were you excited that Justin Scott, the 5-star, was into Michigan this week? He's excited by indicating the index finger over his upper lip. He's excited to be in the maize and blue. How about it? I think you should be excited. Let's all do it. It's fun to do. I got a nice smelling soap that I just, maybe you clean your hands if you're going to do that. But there's Scott in the photo. I had never seen any of the recruits. Michigan's got this plaza. They got all these great things. I'd never seen a recruit take a picture by the plaza. I think they went up there with Scott and said, Scott, how about you be the first? And look at him. There he is. Here's some more photos. I could sit here all day. Here's Scott with the plaza with a couple players next to him. As we look at it on his left, Dominic Nichols, the rush end, wearing number 8. And then we're having a lot of fun with this recruit's name, who it looks like Pale. And then I said, I think it could be Pale Paul. Pale Pauly. That was actually my guess. I looked it up. It is David Pauly. Now that you hear it, it's got a nice ring to it. So you got Nichols, Scott in the middle, and Pauly. This is not a bad, if you're running a 3-4, this is a pretty good defensive line for 2026. Nichols on the outside, yeah, maybe he's more of an edge outside linebacker, but heck, he's in the picture. Just play along with it. Scott and Pauly on the inside, I could see it working. Pauly. Exactly. What's that movie with Jennifer Aniston? And along came Polly. Along came Polly. I was going to say St. Pauli. Girls, there's a beer that's actually pretty good beer. But I like Along Came Polly better. And when it happens, I'll use that one. Thank you very much, Richard. So there they are, not out at the plaza. All these guys in the maize and blue, looking pretty good. Here's Pauly down on the field. On his Instagram, he's holding the sign that says Michigan Man. I don't know. You put the shades on, you put the Michigan hat on, and you say, hey, you can pick any of the signs here. Which one are you picking? What's a Michigan Man pick up? A guy that's planning on going to Michigan. I mean, if he's planning on going somewhere else, are you going to pick up, even if you're just there to take it in, that you're a Michigan man? I got to believe that Pauly, that's just a matter of time before he comes along. No. Yeah. Sure. Rudolph is pictured. This is getting artistic. Whoever's idea, and maybe somebody's like, let's just expand. We got so much to do here at Michigan. So much. Let's take it everywhere. And this is what they've done. They've taken Elias Rudolph, a kid from down in Florida, and they said, just go out there and sit in the stands. And we'll take a picture of you looking out at the stadium. And that's what Rudolph did. And you look at that, he looked like he's contemplating the future. Like, he's a defensive end, 4-star. He's like, I'm an edge at Michigan. I pick this ball off and run it into the whatever. I picture beating Ohio State a couple times on this field. It's all good, Elias. It's all good, Mr. Rudolph. Josh Henschke, I've talked about him a couple times during this broadcast already. He is the publisher of the Maize and Blue Review. He put in a future cast over the weekend for Michigan for Elias Rudolph. And, I had an idea when he was coming up from Deerfield, where Shoelace is from, that, in Michigan, you might get up here and just say, I'm in. And then Henschke pushed the chips in the middle of the table and says he is going to end up being with the Maize and Blue. I'll get a couple more photos for you. I tell everybody, because I believe it, that you should join up the Maize and Blue Review today by going to michigan.rivals.com, and you can see all of this as it's happening, debate it, back and forth, features. Who was it earlier that wanted? It was Scott, who wanted to know about basketball. You want to know about basketball? Start posting on the den. Start getting into it. There's a lot of basketball fans year round. And guess what, Scott? Today is the last day, but you can get in free on the Maize and Blue, free until fall camp. Get full access right now by going to michigan.rivals.com and use the promo code U of M 2024. That's U of M 2024. Today is the last day. I don't know. What do you say? What are you waiting for? What's wrong with you? That would be, that's not a very nice sales pitch. How about, let's talk some Michigan all day and all night, free until fall camp. Give us a shot. We'll see you on that. You want some more photos? I do. I'm sitting here all day putting these up, and I'm like, I like this. These guys are doing good. Ooh, how about this trio? Jacob Oden, who is out of Harper Woods. He committed to Michigan a while back. He's a safety. He is taking some pictures that I had never seen. Again, I hate to sound like, a broken record, but I had never seen Michigan recruits taking pictures up at the top of the stadium. And whoever's idea it was, like, hey, how about you come walking into the big house through the tunnel? You remember your first time doing that. I could sit here and tell you about, Michigan Stadium. The only thing that even matched Michigan Stadium walking up the tunnel the first time was walking up Tiger Stadium tunnel. You'd walk up the tunnel at Tiger Stadium, and then you would see out there, you'd see the green. And then you'd get out there, and then you would have, it would come alive with the sounds of the ballpark. And Michigan Stadium, that's the way it goes there. You get in the tunnel because, if you're a youngster, it looks very impressive from the outside with all the bricks. But back in the day, it didn't look like much. You'd hear like, oh, you got to get in there, and you're okay. But then you get in there, and there's nothing like it. Like, if you've never been to the big house, you walk up that tunnel, and then you get in there, and the whole place, you got 110,000. You're just like, you can't even move. You're stunned. It's a good thing they have the ushers in those Maize coats, to tell you, hey, let's go. Cause you just stand there because you just like, you freaked out in a good way. But you got Boo Carter's I was going to say Instagram, but here it's Twitter. And he's talking about a question mark trio. I could follow along. And he's got Jacob Oden, Boo Carter's in the middle. He's out of Tennessee, an athlete. He looks like a linebacker. He looks like he can play anywhere on the field, but, let me put him at linebacker. So there's Boo in the middle, and there's old Bryce West, who keeps jumping up, and you keep finding a way. And, Carter, asked the question. You know that Odin, remember when Odin committed? I got the Odin 5. Part of the Odin 5 included Boo Carter and Bryce West. I got to believe Michigan's best recruiter this weekend for Boo and for West to get these guys north was Jacob Odin. And then, oh, yeah, you're saying, how come Jaden Davis? How's he doing in recruiting? Here's Jaden Davis's Instagram where he says, know what it is. Know what it is. At Boo Carter, 6. And here's Boo wearing the number 6 in that plaza again. And Boo is passing the look test with me. I'd only seen a thumbnail for him before, but he's got the maze on maze going on, and the whole thing with I'm guessing. This is just me. I know that you guys, you like the hard hitting, inside, accurate information. That's why you watch this show. It is why you're on Rivals, because we actually do provide that. But some guys, they put on that maize and blue uniform, and it pops, and they're like, "Wow!" You say, what's your color? I think my color is actually black. Give me a black shirt, and I put that on, and I'm like, "Oh, suddenly people are giving me a lot of compliments. Like, hey, you look like you lost a little." No, I don't know if they're saying that. You're looking pretty good. I think black is my color. But for Boo Carter, I think it's maize, and I think it's blue. Look at him. I can't believe that he would put on another uniform after this and think, this is it. It just brings everything out that he's bringing, and I'm ready. Boo Carter's coming to Michigan. I know that they're pulling for him for Tennessee, and there's not too many of the experts are out there that are talking about. They're talking boo-hoo, Boo Carter to Michigan, just based on how the maize and blue looks on him. I mean, he's got to go to Michigan. I mean, if he doesn't, I'm going to get a hold of him and say, Boo, you have to admit, man, the maize and blue are your colors. And I'll go so as far, and I hope it works out for every young man wherever they want to go. The world is out there for them. They put themselves in position. There's all these great places to go. Good luck to them. But I'm going to say this to Boo Carter: if he goes somewhere else, I think that he's going to end up transferring and hit the transfer portal and come to Michigan, because wherever he goes, he's going to always look at him and he's going to just say, I just don't look as good as I do in this uniform that I did in that Michigan uniform that day. So, in the end, Boo Carter to Michigan based on the uniforms. And I would not be surprised when we talk with him, when the reporter gurus talk to Boo and they say, what did it come down to in the end? And he might say, playing time and winning and overall feel. But at some point in there, he'll say, and you know what? I just love the uniforms. He's going to put that in there. So remember, you heard it today. All right. That's where I am at in recruiting. Busy weekend. It happens when, you get a bunch of players in and they go through and they post all these pictures. People are like, wow, he's got to. And it's the only thing you can ask for, is a shot. Justin Scott, everybody in the country wants all these guys. But Scott comes in and, Michigan is able to, show them everything. Show them what they got. There's a part about it. If they see all of this, what Michigan's got going on, they take them over, tour the campus, take them to the stadium, and now this artistic approach and everything else. And at the end, if somebody like Justin Scott doesn't want to come, you say, hey, good luck. I mean, when these guys are leaving, you just be like, you guys, there's only a few more scholarships left. Jump on in. They'll save one. They'll save one for great Scott. All right, let's take a little bit of the feedback. I don't know if we're going to be talking about hairy armpits or nude beaches anymore, but we will jump in to see where we were at and get some of this feedback because it's always good to hear what the people and where they're at. I'm going to be looking for you on Twitter there, Michigan football and hockey. Scott is making a prediction saying that he thinks Michigan picks up 2 more players from the basketball portal. Well, Scott, with the addition of Olivier Kamwa, who they got from Tennessee last week, that leaves Michigan with 2 spots remaining. They can still add 2 guys. Now, man, there's a player that was at Kentucky last year who I think's at Southern Illinois trying to finish up so he could be a grad student. Reeves, I believe his name is. He's at the top of the list for me. If Michigan could get Reeves, he would be their best player. And now you're talking. Is it McCahey from Rutgers? I saw, he put out a list, or he played at Rutgers last year, a point guard. Michigan's got a lot of point guards, but if I had to guess 2 right now, those would be 2 of them. But man, Reeves is the one. And my idea of Michigan being in the bottom third of the Big Ten, which is where I think they are right now, looking at their prospects and looking at the team. If they get Reeves, and I don't know, we'll have to wait and see on the other one. But for this conversation, if they got Reeves, I'm going to bump them up. I'm going to bump them up to middle of the pack, from lower third to middle of the pack with Reeves. Okay. I don't know what. I thought I was saying something about my AI. Oh, here's more predictions. I like the recruiting predictions. Don't be shocked if we get Wingo and Scott. Well, if they grab 2 5-stars in Wingo and Scott, is Wingo check? I was going to say, I don't know. I should know. Does it matter? Because old Wingo was over here. He was on this list. He was up there pretty high. So, oh yeah, there he is. So you're saying Michigan football and hockey. Don't be shocked if we get Wingo and Scott. Scott, a rank number 16. I mean, Wingo. And then you're saying Scott. I'm not going to be shocked. I'm putting all of my energy into getting Justin Scott. And you're thinking West too. West, Scott, and Wingo. Hey, Wingo, I'm not, Wingo as a 5-star wide receiver, I'm going to have to wait to see it to believe it. Not that I don't want to, I think that he's going to have to see what I predict is going to happen this year. And that is Roman Wilson have an extraordinary year and be, busting out and taking the top off of defenses, and Michigan throwing the ball a little bit. Everybody's going to be like, wow, I thought Michigan was like running the triple option or something. And then Wingo will be like, okay. But I think I'm going to have to wait to see that until I think like Wingo's going. But could Justin Scott be the next Rashan Gary? Yeah. Yeah. He could be the next Mozzie Smith. I'm ready for that. Few more here. Jaden Smith, the defensive athlete that we talked about on Friday. Victor saying he's in. Any word on if the staff use him as a linebacker or safety? I'd have to look at his particulars, Victor, about what the staff, he's somebody that they like his work ethic. I know that. So we'll have to take a look and look. Logan likes the pickup of Smith. Looks athletic. Okay. Yeah, we'll see. The poster formerly known as Andres wants another forecast. This Friday I'll do some forecasts. I kind of just did it with Boo Carter, so I'm going to do a temporary forecast for Boo Carter. But we'll see on Friday. I'll hook the forecast up there. So there you go. Tim has what he believes is the lowdown. Smith is considered a defensive athlete that could fit in many defensive positions. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Mark, how many does Michigan have in the top 100 now? Well, you could go back and look, and let's just see where it was Wafle. Trying to answer these questions myself. Wafle, I'm looking for the, here it is. I didn't have a national ranking on him. So he was not in that top 100 that I just looked at. So Wafle is not in there. The possibility, there's a lot of them that they're in on. So that's it. Let's see. People are fired up about Jaden Smith, the linebacker from Charlotte. Good pickup. Yeah, we talked about him Friday, and obviously the staff sees something in him, and we'll just have to wait and see. If he's going to start getting recognized now by the services like Rivals, who had him as a completely off the radar type player. Now that Michigan's like, we are offering this guy a scholarship, maybe Zach Ludwig and Smith, before you know it, these guys will be 3 stars. Richard says he feels like Ann Arbor is a great feel environment. That's right. A lot of a good environment going on. Let's see. MC is getting in here. He's asking a question. Has anyone questioned why Owen Wafle was available and he was replaced by defensive lineman Severino yet? Head-to-head film breakdown. A bunch of lucky charms here. I'll leave that for a domer. Like if it makes you feel better that you feel like Notre Dame processed him out when he committed, and here he was, and this is going to be something to watch in the future or something like that. I'll give it to you. And I don't know. Head-to-head film breakdown, not yet. I haven't gone that route. I'll leave that for you, Michael. Let's see here if we have any more. Dennis using AI to figure out the kids these days. I mean, it's what are you going to do? You got to. How many times am I typing in acronyms? Like, what's that mean? Now you just have AI. You just ask them. AI knows. They're pretty good about that. All right, we're getting people. Let's see if we get anything new in here to talk about before we get to Donovan Edwards. Don, do you think they asked the players where they would like to get picks taken for their input? I would say yes. I would say absolutely. I mean, if you're doing your job, like recruiting, it's like any kind of business. You want to listen to your, in this case, your customer. So if these guys wanted to take a picture at the library, you get over to the library, it takes some pictures. But it feels like to me watching, like I'd seen the stuff out at the practice fields, and they get the cool where Harbaugh's office is at, and they take some pictures from my eye. Those all looked really cool too. But it just there's more of a flair this weekend with doing it from up in the concourse, and somebody had the idea about, hey, let's all jump on a golf cart or whatever else. Let's take a spin around the entire stadium. Great idea to do that. Antoine saying, Dennis, did you hear the report about Justin Scott's mother wants him to stay closer to home? That's a good sign for Michigan. Did I hear the report, Antoine? I'm the originator of the report. You go back, Antoine, and you'll have to look, and you'll remember when I had Clint Cosgrove. last month. Maybe it was even 2 months ago now. I brought Clint on there, and I brought up Justin Scott's name, and Clint was very familiar with Scott. That's right in his neck of the woods in Chicago, where he does a lot of his work. And I think Cosgrove was on Scott first, saw him, and thought this guy's a big time prospect. So like that's one of his guys. And then he was the one that mentioned about Scott's mother and about how the family really wants him to stay close to home. So, yeah, so it wasn't actually me, but it was on this particular show that you heard that. Just like Odin and the Odin 5 that was put out here a while back. You'll remember that as well, Antoine. There was a recruiting page that I had. Here it is, that I'd put up there. And, first I had my 5, and then I had 3 guys that I was really looking at. This was at the outset of recruiting. And there was Scott that I had out there. I said, look out for Georgia. Why not? The other ones, all Childs, who Michigan is still in on. You got Prieskorn, committed. Marshall, committed. And then you got Davis, committed. And then you had the +1, Amarian Stewart. I think Michigan's going to get him. They got a pretty good shot at getting him. Whoa, what happened there? Then you have, who else? Ryan Robinson. Ooh, maybe. I don't know. They don't have a great feel that, he's been up here. Like I feel like he's waiting for an Ohio State offer, but, we'll see on that one. Frazier. I knew that one was going to happen. But then you got to the Jacob Oden 4. Jacob Oden 4. This was a long time ago if you go through there and look. It's been a couple months about Oden. And Oden liked Boo Carter, Bryce West, Jeremiah Beasley, and Aaron Scott. Those were his 4. And so, yeah, Oden, what he's doing and how he's getting out there and recruiting, he's doing a heck of a job. That is a picture of Carter, Oden, West. Makes you definitely think they're heading to Michigan. Yeah, it makes me feel like that too. Let's see what Gary has to say. The Michigan helmets is what caught my eye when I was 6 years old. Yeah, those helmets will catch your eye. You never know what ends up. Some kids, school's a really big deal to them. Some others getting to the pros, playing time. You'd think the uniforms, whatever. A lot of times the kid just says it was the feel. I just felt right. I get that. There's a lot of this, these presentations, it's like, wow, man, these are all great presentations. I'm going to have too tough of a time. I could see that. So then you just go with the feel. But there's enough. I remember a former Michigan hockey assistant just up until last year, Bill McCall, who won a national championship for Michigan on the ice. I remember back in the day, it was, you talking McCall, it was, hey, McCall, what was it, for Michigan? It was a Red Berenson, the Yost Ice Arena, the great academics. McCall said, no, it was the Fab Five shorts, man. Those things were great. It was the Fab Five. So a lot of different things can affect you. This is, AJ has made a lot of posts. He's never short of opinions or feedback. Here is my favorite feedback of all time from Antoine. For Boo Carter, the athlete out of Tennessee, Antoine is calling him Blue Carter. I love it, Antoine. That's it. That is it. Let's go. Let me get this little screenshot on that one. There it is. Tennessee should be worried. That's right. Let's go. Antoine following up with his Blue Carter. A Blue Carter is tight with Oden and Bryce West. Heck yeah. Ty is saying usually getting some unexpected high-ranking recruits as of late. Michigan football and hockey says Rashan Gary was a bust. He never lived up to the hype at Michigan. Well, considering he was the number one overall pick, if your expectations were for Rashan Gary to be everybody's All-American and destroy everybody and be the number one pick in the NFL draft, then yeah, you could say he was disappointing. He wasn't a bust. He was, if this, it's hard to do this. When Rashan Gary came in and he was the number one player overall, I can remember sitting in the press box a number of times. You can do this on TV if you go back and watch a game. I would just isolate on Gary and I would watch him and say, this guy's supposed to be the greatest thing ever. I'm just going to watch him. And then sometimes I'd say, man, he's got a quick burst off though. He can really get around the edge. Man, he's got some for his size. He's pretty fast. These are the kind of things. But then I thought if Rashan Gary was a 3-star, first of all, I wouldn't be sitting there isolating and sitting watching every single play. But if I was, would I think that? And it's the same thing with you. It's hard. People talking about let's break down the tape. You got that Notre Dame fan. If you get a Notre Dame fan on one side watching their kid, you get the other, if you're sitting there and you're watching Wafle and you're like, okay, and you're watching high school film, what's the game? What's the film? How are your biases in there? So Rashan Gary wasn't a bust, but if you're trying to say, he was the number one overall pick based on that, then I can see what you're saying. But I don't think Gary was a bust. He was a productive player. He got banged up in his last year. And, it'd have been nice to see him out there in the field a little bit more. But he wasn't a bust. You want to start talking about busts, you go to somebody like, Derek Green or Kelly Baraka or Grady. I mean, there's a lot of guys that you would say as bust. Gary, not a bust. But hey, that's the way I look at it. We're all different. Obviously you do look at it that way. And again, I can see where you're coming from. Venice. The Venice not agreeing. A first round bust. Yeah, he just didn't live up to the expectations. It's tough when you're number one. Here's Cody. Cody says, I'm not asking us to abandon the run, but a balanced attack with the passing game, opening up the run would be awesome to see. Make them drop 2 safeties back would be a plus with a recruit like Wingo. Yeah, I think that's it. I think you're right about that. I think if you want to get 5-star recruits, then, you're talking about 5-star recruits as wide receivers. I think, being a pound the rock, of the team that runs it every time, you better block. And, you're going to miss out on a certain share of 5 stars that might look your way. And it's one of the summer topics. And that is how Michigan will attack. And I'm just going to give my thought. And it was just a little while ago, 2 weeks ago, that Harbaugh said that he thought that they're going to throw it the same amount of times that they run it. And if you look to last year, they ran it 600 times and threw it 370 times. That's going to be a lot more of throwing the ball. My opinion, I think Michigan is going to throw the ball more. Michigan is in a spot now where you can relate it to a lot of different things. I'm going to use it as a car at the Indianapolis 500. Michigan has tested that car, and what they know when they get out and they come back with their times is they've got one of the best cars in the field. So now it's just like fine-tuning it a little bit. It's about just getting under and bending the fender a little bit. They've got the horse. That's what the program has built themselves with back-to-back Final Four finishes where they can think about what's left. What's the next step? For years, it's been beating Ohio State. That was going to open up a lot of things. Guess what? That was correct. that did open up a lot of things. Like, now what's the next step? And we know what the next step is. It's winning it all. How are they going to do that? If you said, well, tick up in an explosive passing game, I would say I think that's it. Because they do, because what else would it be? Because they do everything else. So that would be just the last spot. Now, can you be a run heavy, run every time, and have an explosive passing game? I think they're going to throw it more. You've got a quarterback who's not a first year starter anymore, who just really got on the same pages with his receivers late in the year against Ohio State. I think you are going to see more deep shots and a more opened up passing game. If I was with Harbaugh and the staff, that's what they want. I know that Jim Scarcelli said they're not changing their identity. They're running the football. I get that. But also there's a part where, Scarcelli can say that and Harbaugh's like, yeah, we get up, we're just gonna pound them into submission. There is the other part, and Harbaugh knows this. And so do you. That if you want to, you're everywhere you want to be, but you want to take that next step. Well, what could it be? That's it. A little bit more of an explosive passing game. How do you get maybe Bryce Underwood, who asked about it, Jaden Davis, these 5-star quarterbacks, when they come in there, they ask the question, hey, are you guys going to look to, use the entire field, throw the ball, and I think Harbaugh and I think Kirk Campbell and I think Sharon Moore, when they talk to these guys, I mean, people want to make like this is some super secret. And I know Michigan keeps everything under wraps and like, nobody, people like, you don't know what you're talking about. This is common sense. I mean, Harbaugh wants to win football games. Sure, they've established their identity. Sure, they've got the 2 best running backs in the country and a tremendous offensive line. They're going to continue running the football. But they want now, with a second-year QB, to unleash a passing game as well. They want to do those things. They want to be able to get 5-star wide receivers. They want to, if they get into a game, have the ability to push the ball down the field and be able to score in chunk plays. They want to be able to do that. Now, when it all comes down to it, there's these Harbaugh, default, all these different things you can say. Michigan's going to try to be a more explosive passing team this year. I believe with Roman Wilson leading the way, with Loveland and Kojo, just those 3 right there, and the 2 great backs and the play action and the kind of routes that you can run and the ability to the plays that will open up for you when you have the ability, when you have a running game, the world is yours. Take it. They will. It's going to happen. That's it. Little cough. Apologize. Let's see. Scott, we're still talking about Rashan Gary. He lived up to the hype, but it took him to the NFL. Well, look, welcome to evaluating players. I mean, look at basketball. You look at some of the guys, the top 5, top 10, look at the 5 stars. I mean, just look at Diabate and Caleb Houston. Caleb Houston was a top 10 overall recruit. He was a disappointment at Michigan. And yet, he was still able to collect, millions of dollars being the first pick in the second round. And, that's what happens, those kind of evaluations. But, that's why, you need a blend of, in football, you'd like to have all great players because they have to stay around for 3 years. But in basketball, if you just go to like you've seen it, especially with Kentucky, they just take 6 5-stars. Well, 5, they don't all hit. And then, 5 of them are going, whether they are play well or not. And then you have to start it over all again. So, that kind of stuff happens. AI also can be wrong. Yeah, that's what I hear. They can be. But um, it's here. That's it. Okay, what else do I have? Oh, I was going to talk about the one-armed bandit who went on record this weekend. He was up north. The one-armed bandit, Donovan Edwards. He revealed over the weekend that he played the majority of last season with a partially torn patella tendon. Now, he said he heard it in the second game of the year against Hawaii. Here's the quotes, and we'll see what you think about it. Quote, Donovan Edwards from ESPN. I got that fixed up. Had surgery in February and just been rehabbing now. I'm up to par now, running, cutting, doing all that good stuff. So like that recovery wasn't going to take long. About 4 months to get full speed, 3 months for me to feel good. Here's more from Donovan Edwards. He said, I always thought it was, okay, tendonitis. It's a little achy. I found out against Hawaii. I made that catch right at the goal line, put my knee back, and it just didn't feel right. I found out it was partially torn, and after that, continued to work around it. So in the second game of the season, and he was in and out. You remember because Corum in the 59-0 game against UConn scored 5 touchdowns and ran for a ton of yards. And then against Maryland in the Big Ten opener, Corum had 245 yards and 30 carries. So yeah, the Don wasn't really available there. And then they shared the responsibility until Corum ended up getting banged up, and then Edwards finished up his thought saying, "My leg would have had to been cut off to not play. Same thing with the broken hand. Put a cast on it, and I'll carry the ball in my dominant hand. Just got to do what you got to do to come up successful and win a game." He was probably asked about, what about playing for against Ohio State, banged up with your hand? So we didn't know that. And I think, how do you feel about that? How do you feel like when I hear that? I feel like, Michigan was lucky. As I don't know, like a lot of players, are they even going to be able to play at all on a partial tear? Does a player say, hey, shut me down with a partial tear? Let's look to the next, whatever, with the Don that way. But the good news is that what can Donovan Edwards do with both of his legs feeling 100%? And what can he do with both arms? A lot. I had an Ohio State fan. A lot of times people on here, they're visiting Ohio State pods or whatever else. Once in a while, we had a Notre Dame fan jump in here today. I had a Ohio State fan telling me I was an idiot for saying that Donovan Edwards was the second best running back in the country. And he scoffed and said, he's not even the second best running back in the Big Ten. And you can make a case that Donovan's not as cry. I was going to say, I didn't say, go to hell, Ohio State loser. I said, it's my opinion. There's nothing against those other guys. But Donovan Edwards can be the best running back in the country. And yeah, it's tough when the best running back is on your own team in the same backfield. But I believe Donovan Edwards could be the best running back in the country. But I'll put Blake Corum at number 1. And yes, I'll say it again for that Ohio State fan who was calling me an idiot. Not just in the Big Ten, but in the entire country. I believe the second best running back in the country heading into this season is Donovan Edwards. I told that guy to get back to me in November. Now, I should have said, why don't you, pop that second half against your Ohio State team in? Guy could have run for, 500 yards. I didn't do that, but a big fan of Donovan Edwards. What he can do. I think, I don't know if he hasn't just scratched the surface because he's gone out there and he's proven it. He went out there and, he had the 75 and 85 yards and the 216 yards against Ohio State. I mean, that's not nothing. And then he followed it up with 185 yards in the Big Ten championship game. Donovan Edwards is the real deal. And, how you do in big time games, we can look at a lot of different numbers and stats. Doing it on the road against Ohio State, doing it in the championship game, those are two pretty big games to come up big in. The other game that he really came up big in was the Penn State game. Penn State, if you remember going into that game, they were one of the best rush defenses in the country. Donovan Edwards had 173 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, if there was no Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards would have been talked about and potentially winning the Heisman Trophy. Who knows how many yards he would run for? But in the toughest games, Penn State, Ohio State, Donovan Edwards ran wild. I'm not apologizing for saying he's the number 2. If you want to just have the uniform, just ask AI. AI will go out there and spit you out a top 10, and then you can just look at the AIs. If you want somebody who's going to take a little bit of a risk and use his foresight and what he's looking at, tune into this show. An Ohio State fan. Here's somebody going against what AI had to say about the finger under your nose pick. It's Michael. Oh, he's the Notre Dame fan. He's saying it's from a rapper, Young T. Wipe your nose clean, blank your whole team. There you go. It changes for different generations. Yeah, AI didn't mention anything about about the rapper YT. So, hey, well, maybe that's the TikTok song. Now, in AI's defense, maybe the TikTok song, which everybody's going like this, is Young Thug's song. And everybody's right. You're right about Robinson. The thing is there. There we go. Do we want to go back and see what MC is talking about being a better technique? Okay. All right. Scott adding a name, a Gardner, a talented 7-footer. All right. We'll see. We'll see what's going on there. So we get to the end. People talking about watching the film. Oh, here's Michael wanting the battle with Michigan fans. Stop saying the number 1 overall pick. You mean number 1 recruit. That is what I mean, Beef. Sorry. I misspeak all the time and say things. So when I do, I appreciate you pointing that out. That's not a surprise. The number 1 recruit overall. He was a first-round pick. I kind of, screwed that up a little bit. The films are all out there, and you can watch the film, and you're relying on some other people that watch the film, and then you get in and you talk about it. My guess is that the majority of Notre Dame fans, I watch enough with how the schools go. I watch enough with Michigan. If Michigan had a decommitment and then took another guy at the same position, they'd be like, we like our guy better anyways. Yeah, that guy didn't want, you say whatever. Is it really what you're talking about? Now he's talking about 3 technique and, fitting in there. You might be right. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sitting there and I'm not telling. If I watch some film, I'd be able to have a opinion on it. But I have not put both of those tapes on and tried to break it down to see which guy that I thought would be, a better defensive tackle or a better nose tackle, or who's going to end up being the better. I just have not done that. So, Michael, if you have, and you're coming onto a Michigan pod trying to be completely objective, saying that Notre Dame let this guy go, slip through his fingers, or processed him because they liked the other guy. you could be right. But I'll have you have to admit that coming on here, I don't know, do Notre Dame guys not do podcasts every other day or whatever? Or do you just like going mixing it up? With other fan bases, you might not. You could be a decent fellow. Each side was mutual to the split. Hey, we're happy to have him. I know he's not going to be around on the field and the next time Michigan and Notre Dame are scheduled to play in 2033. Well, we're still a little bit of ways away from that. But with the 12-team playoff, there's a chance that that Notre Dame might show up, once or twice in that playoff before 2033. Maybe we could see Michigan Notre Dame. How about that? Let's see. Don talking about Andrew Luck, 61-39 run to pass ratio when Luck was at Stanford, and then he was able to break out as a sophomore. Yeah, well, there you go. Always wondered why Donovan Edwards was running funny. Yeah, I don't know. You thought that he needed to lift more weights or something? Is what Here's JH. Corum is great, but Edwards is scary good, and he has first round potential. Blake Corum has first round potential, if we're going to be honest. Hey, if we look back and Jahmyr Gibbs, he has first round potential. Heck, he was picked pretty high by the Detroit Lions. Bijan Robinson, who I'm going to take number 1 in my fantasy draft next year. He was taken in the first round. Well, you're right about that, because Donovan Edwards, it appears to me, has blazing fast speed. He is what you're looking for in the NFL, and that is a guy that can be, as dangerous as a wide receiver as he can as a running back. Meanwhile, Corum can do those kind of things too. So I don't know. Corum, the first time I saw him, reminded me of the former Ohio State running back, J.K. Dobbins. I looked at it, wasn't watching film. It was watching, him at Michigan. Went in there, similar type build, similar type style. Wow, quick feet. Look at him get into the end zone. Reminds me of J.K. Dobbins. Donovan Edwards, Alvin Kamara came to mind. Guy you could throw the ball to every time. Very dangerous. No, that's it. That's where we're sitting. Let's go to Mark. Still got to give the NFL player draft as the elite evaluators of talent, YouTube, and audience. Just opinions. I like Corum, but I think Judkins might be better. But I thought Brown was better, and the NFL. Yeah, well, the freshman from Old Miss. Yeah, he's outstanding. Well, the thing about evaluators, like you're talking about YouTube. It's a moving target. It is a fluid situation. You watch a kid in high school, the variance of a high school to college is a gigantic jump. When you're watching, all of these kids are the greatest ever in high school. And then it's the same kind of jump from college to pro, except you have 4 more years where they're mature in their body, from high school. And then, the 4 years that they spend in college, there's a crazy amount of things can happen to a guy physically, mentally, everything. So that's going to be the biggest part when you're talking about evaluating talent. I mean, you could look at a kid that's a freshman in high school, and some of them you look at and you're like, okay, it doesn't take a great scout at all to say that guy's going to be a great player. The other ones projecting them, and and you try to do all of those things when you come along, and you want to get into scouting and what they're looking at. I mean, that's going to be the biggest thing that that's going to hold you back. And like there are people that want to be evaluators trying to scout these players and look, the competition that they're playing that comes into it. The offense that they're running, all of those kind of things. And then, to me, I have not broken down a tremendous amount of high school film. Like I told everybody, I spent my last 25, 30 years talking about mostly the pros and college, and not so much high school. It's a niche thing. Well, I'm into the niche thing now. But when you watch the tape and you watch a guy, it's really look at a rep, look at an individual rep. What kind of body style are you looking at? What kind of attributes does the guy show? And what are you seeing in that single repetition? It doesn't matter if you spent 100 years in the NFL and your dad was a scout and this is all that you've done. You can look at it in a rep and see certain things that you're looking at. And then you add on that it's an inexact science. But, really, Mark, is what we're looking at is that it's let's do it for fun and let's have it as a guide. We can all, and the funny thing about saying all of that is I can remember when I was young and you just sit back and you watch a game and you just watch you can watch one play sometimes of a guy and you can say, that guy's special. That guy's going to be great. And, and sometimes it works out that way and you see it before the scouts do. And then the more we learn, the more you find out is what I'm looking at and what you're looking at in an NFL player, in a college player, in a high school player. They're going to be different things. And what attracts us and what we think is going to make a guy or what's not going to. Just like if I put up the blue and gold dresses, half of you are going to tell me it's gold and the other half are going to tell me it's blue. And then we're going to play the audio, and half of you are going to tell me it's Laurel, and the other half is going to tell me it's Hardy or whatever that thing was. I watch enough sports and watch enough replays where you get the guys up in the booth, the broadcast booth, and you get all these experts at somewhere like New York. I don't know how many people they're looking at. They got the latest technology. They got 10 people in the command center. You got a guy that spent 30 years playing the game. He's broadcasted for 20 years. You get the broadcaster in there. These guys can't decide what it is. They're both looking at it and they're saying, no, this is definitely going to be overturned. And then they come back and they say, no, play stands. Wait a second. It's different. It's what makes part of what makes it fun. But there we go. Notre Dame. Let's go with one more. And it's from Andres. I slipped and fell into a Nebraska show recently. You want to talk about some optimistically depressed people? Well, if your team's not doing good, what are you going to do? It's the off season. You listen to a couple Tiger podcasts, Detroit Tiger podcasts in the off season, talking about, hey, we got Scott Harris and AJ Hinch of this pitching staff. Got some young guys. Look at Riley Green. What if Torkelson takes off? And now look at him. It was only 3 weeks ago that, I saw people like, hey, the Tigers were in the game or two of 500. What was that? It was, I think, exactly 10 games ago. 9 games ago. Or they lose 10 now. 10. Not so optimistic anymore. All right. That's going to do it. Remember, take advantage of the deal because it is the last day. And I would like to see you guys over, we'll talk a little Notre Dame, talk about the evaluation of Wafle and, why Michigan ended up getting, what kind of chance, why they ended up getting him, what kind of chance that they have. And to do that, if you're just joining us, go to michigan.rivals.com. You can get full access today. Today is the last day, free until fall camp. Use that promo code U of M 2024, U of M 2024. We'll see you over there on the Den. Coming up on Wednesday, we'll have Jim Scarcelli in. Until then, thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day. So long.